Terry Barber is a best-selling author and founder of Lighthouse Catholic Media. Jesse Romero is a retired law enforcement officer, a former kickboxing champion with a master's degree in theology. And together, they share a passion for evangelization and PhDs in common sense. You're listening to The Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. To join the show, call 888-526-2151. Here's Terry and Jesse.
Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ told us today at Holy Mass, He said, "The harvest is abundant, but the laborers are few. So ask the master of the harvest to send out laborers for his harvest. Go on your way. Behold, I am sending you like lambs amongst wolves." Yep. That's what the Terry and Jesse Show, that's what we're here. We're trying to help people realize that we're supposed to go out there, and we're supposed to go out there and serve the Lord Jesus Christ, and yes, and be a lamb amongst the wolves. Hey, did you hear about this at the Senate confirmation hearing of Representative Ryan Zink? He's from Montana. I thought it was very interesting. Somebody took a picture of him, of his socks as he was sitting down. He's being nominated by Donald Trump to be the new Secretary of the Interior. Well, at his Senate confirmation hearing, Representative Zink wore something unusual. He wore socks with Our Lady of Guadalupe imprinted on them. This was spotted by Melanie Mata from the National Political Staff photographer at the Washington Post. She snapped the picture, put it on Instagram, and I think what's very interesting is that Representative Zink, according to the Pew Forum, his religion is Lutheran, not Catholic. Who knows? Maybe he's going through a conversion. Here's another good news story. You know, a lot of people from the White House staff, we don't know how many. We know so far Kellyanne Conway is going to be attending the March for Life, along with other undisclosed people from the White House staff will be at the March for Life. And to me, what a difference this makes, you know, when we change administrations, because to think that many people in the Trump administration will go. In fact, the article says, Sean Spicer says that at the Walk for Life, at the March for Life, it says there will be a heavy administration present at the March for Life. And again, I don't think it's a secret that the president campaign, there's a pro-life president, and it's something very important for him, as evidenced by his nixing the Mexico City policy a couple of days ago, which defunds money for international abortion. Terry, who else is going to be there?
I got big news, everybody. I'm so excited that the White House just confirmed Vice President Pence to speak at the March for Life. Now, I'm saying, is this true? Is this microphone on? The Vice President of the United States? I have to ask myself, in all the years that we've been going to this march, have we ever had someone like the Vice President speak at the March for Life? Last time I looked, I don't think so. But, you know, Jesse, it's refreshing to see that. And I just want to mention, we got more good news, but I want to, before we play this clip from Ben Shapiro, who happens to be a Jewish gentleman that we've been very impressed with his writings, he has something to say about Planned Parenthood that I thought made sense. But I just want to throw something before we put the clip on, that the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, here's what she said. And then ask yourself, is that someone who I want to help with me, with my family? She said, the most merciful thing that a family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. Okay, that's her statement. I have it here. Now, Mr. Engineer, would you play this clip from Ben Shapiro about Planned Parenthood?
If you're like 7 in 10 Americans, you probably haven't heard anything at all about Planned Parenthood killing unborn babies and then selling their body parts to the highest bidder. You've probably heard about a random dentist killing a magic lion out in Zimbabwe. You've probably heard about Miley Cyrus's armpit hair. But the media don't want you to know that your tax dollars are funding the mass murder and organ harvesting of actual children in the womb. I'm Ben Shapiro, and this is Hardwired. So, why are the media covering up the brutality of Planned Parenthood? Because it might make you uncomfortable. Worse, it might make Democrats uncomfortable because Democrats love Planned Parenthood. The Democratic Party platform stands for the ability of a woman to crush her baby's head 1 minute before birth, and they want you to pay for it. It's actually in their platform. Quote, Democratic Party strongly and unequivocally supports Roe v. Wade, and a woman's right to make decisions regarding her pregnancy, including a safe and legal abortion, regardless of ability to pay. President Obama, as a state senator in Illinois, he actually called for a fully formed living baby to be killed after birth. He said such a child was merely a fetus outside of the mother's womb. That's how Democrats think. We have it on gruesome tape. Here's a top Planned Parenthood doctor talking about how to use less crunchy techniques to kill babies so that their organs can be more easily sold.
How he feels about using a less crunchy technique to get more whole specimens.
And here's another top Planned Parenthood doctor talking about the ease with which baby intestines can be harvested and eyeballs can be extracted.
These orbits are good too, and at this stage you start to get the retinal pigment epithelium,
Yes.
which is in the back, which is you've collected that before.
So all the orbits are so easy.
It's just delightful. A third top Planned Parenthood doctor negotiated over baby body part prices while standing over a tray of dissected children.
I think the per item thing works a little better just because we can see how much we can get out of it.
Now, naturally, Hillary Clinton thinks the people who do this are just wonderful.
I'm proud to stand with Planned Parenthood.
But when Hillary Clinton is shown video of Planned Parenthood doctors talking about selling organs, even she pretends to find it, quote, disturbing. People who claim they're disturbed by the sale of baby organs but are totally fine with the crushing of their heads are moral idiots. It's like saying you're disturbed by the whipping of American slaves but not by anyone holding them as slaves in the first place. Here's the truth. Abortion ends a human life. The science is settled. By 3 weeks after sperm meets egg, the baby's brain, spinal cord, heart, and other organs begin forming. That's about the time when most women notice they're pregnant in the first place. By week 4, we've got early facial features. By week 7, the baby has toes. By week 9, the baby is developing external genitalia. By week 10, the baby has started growing fingernails. And that's all in the first trimester. That's the least controversial abortion period. But we treat these innocent human lives as junk for the garbage disposal. During the first 3 months of pregnancy, doctors plunge a tube with an edged tip into the womb. They then use the suction power of the tube to literally tear apart the child while it's alive, and then suck the pieces out of the mother's womb. This is called suction aspiration. Unpleasant? Try dilation and curettage. In this version of abortion, doctors use a curette, which chops up the baby inside the womb and then scrapes it right out. As the baby grows, the methods of abortion get uglier and uglier. There's dilation and evacuation, in which doctors use a forceps to crush the baby, including its brain and spine. The pieces are then removed. And as a last resort, doctors use partial birth abortion. Democrats love partial birth abortion. This is a procedure in which doctors use an ultrasound. They find a baby's legs with the forceps. They pull it into the birth canal. They deliver the entire baby except for the head. And then they stab the baby in the skull with the scissors, insert a suction tube into the skull, and suck out the brains. This is also the preferred method for ensuring that the internal organs are best preserved so Planned Parenthood can hawk them to Big Pharma. Taken in total, these various forms of abortion and others are used to murder approximately 3,000 babies every single day in America. That's over 1 million babies a year. That's 55 million children since Roe v. Wade. The media want to keep us blind to these facts, or perhaps we want to blind ourselves. But by blinding ourselves to murder, we become complicit in it.
Wow.
Wow, that sounds like Catholic theology, that very last statement.
Yeah.
When you look at the
It's sick.
catechism,
Yeah, it's sick.
when you look at the catechism, there's 9 ways to be complicit in sin. 9 different ways. And one of the ways is being silent about unspeakable evil. The catechism says when you're quiet and silent about unspeakable evil, you're complicit with sin. And it's funny, he's a practicing Jew, but again, it goes to show you that when somebody's pursuing the truth,
Yep.
they're rooted in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the 10 Commandments. A Jewish thinker like Ben Shapiro and ourselves, the Terry and Jesse, who are Catholic Christians, we're on the same page when it comes to this. And I know that this was very descriptive, but the only way people, their hearts are going to change is if they hear descriptive and the unspeakable evil that happens in abortion.
Wow, that was hard to listen to, I have to admit. Folks, I'm giving away Anger and Forgiveness CD by Deacon Bob McDonald. This is a CD from our Lighthouse selection that I've distributed hundreds of thousands of these. It's a powerful, powerful CD. If you know anybody who has a hard time forgiving someone, this is a permanent deacon who's a doctor, also a medical doctor. I'll give you 2 copies if you call 877-526-2151, or you can get the 3 CD set at a discounted rate. Also, just because I want something for the kids, for mom and dad, I have a DVD called Miracles of Jesus, and Matt Arnold did it. It's using sacred art to convene all the miracles that took place in the New Testament with the Gospels. It's a beautiful DVD, and you just give a little donation for the shipping on that, too. 877-526-2151. Don't forget, we have the Spiritual Warfare Conference coming up. We still have some seats available. The 25th of February, Jesse Romero will be there. We got a great lineup for that, and the same number is 877-526-2151. But, Jesse, you're also coming out this week. I just announced it. May 6th of this year, you're coming back out to the Sacred Heart Chapel to give a conference on the use of marijuana. Can you tell our listeners, mom and dad, why they should come to that event, too?
Yes, because this is a problem, once again,
big time, that's
been inserted by the devil using secular humanist forces, and it's growing from one state to another. And Catholic kids are being indoctrinated in government schools, and they're being told how to argue against their parents on this issue. And I find most parents that I talk to, their head spins when their child comes home from school and says, "Mom, Dad, what's wrong with marijuana?" That's the title of a book I just wrote. What's wrong with marijuana? 50 questions and answers. I take all the questions that Gen Xers ask and millennials ask, and I answer with scripture, theology, catechism, Thomistic thought, federal law, medicine, and science. And I'm going to keep doing this seminar every single year till we fight this back, till all the Southwest knows how to argue back against this evil.
You want to come? Call 877-526-2151. More in a moment.
Back to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. Want to join the conversation? Call 888-526-2151. Now here's Terry and Jesse.
You got to ask yourself, what is prayer to you? Is it your steering wheel or is it your spare tire? This is Common Sense Catholicism. Hey, did you know that in the Women's March on Washington, there's a good piece we have at Terry Jesse Show, the Twitter account, or the website, the terryandjesseshow.com or jesseromero.com. There was a Muslim woman who investigated how the Women's March on Washington was funded, which is the money behind it, or how did they receive the money to fund this march. See, here's the difference between when Catholics and Protestants, when we march, for example, this weekend, nobody's paying for us. People go out of the goodness of their heart because they believe it, and they're not getting paid by anybody. We go because it's the right thing to do, because we believe in God and we want to promote the pro-life ethic. But it's funny that some of these leftist marches, the only way some of these people show up is they have to get paid. Well, this female writer by the name of Azra Nomani, she calls herself a Muslim feminist. She says that she investigated the Follow the Money trail. She says Soros has funded at least 56 of the march's partners for the Women's March on Washington. And she also mentioned this. She says, on issues I care about as a Muslim woman, the Women's March, unfortunately, has taken a stand on the side of partisan politics that has obfuscated the issues of Islamic extremism over the 8 years of the Obama administration. And she basically says, you know what, I'm a woman, I'm a feminist, and I believe in the Women's March, but the fact is, they don't mention anything. They've obfuscated the whole thing about Islamic extremism. And she also says here's something very important. She says the Women's March, the partners include on American Islamic relations, which has not only deflected on issues of Islamic extremism post 9/11, but they also oppose Muslims' reforms that would allow women to be prayer leaders and pray in front of mosques without wearing headscarves and symbols of chastity. So I just give kudos to this female Muslim writer. She's a brave woman for, first of all, writing the facts about George Soros, the way he's funding this, and number two, talking about the way this is a partisan politics march on Washington.
Well said, Jesse. And also, over the week we've been talking about how the mainstream media doesn't seem to follow any of these marches for life on the West Coast, East Coast. And we've been saying that for years. But a very, very high official in the U.S. government he must be listening to the Terry and Jesse show. I'm joking, everybody, because he's saying the same thing. He called out mainstream media for failing to cover the March for Life. And I'd like to surprise you on who said that. Mr. Engineer, play that clip.
Ask you while we're standing outside, could you hear the voices from the Women's March here in Washington? We know there were more than 1 million people who turned out, and you are their president now, too.
That's true.
Could you hear them from the White House?
No, I couldn't hear them, but the crowds were large. But you're going to have a large crowd on Friday, too, which is mostly pro-life people. You're going to have a lot of people coming on Friday. And I will say this, and I didn't realize this, but I was told, you will have a very large crowd of people. I don't know, as large or larger. Some people say it's going to be larger, pro-life people. And they say the press doesn't cover them.
I don't want to compare crowd sizes again.
No, you shouldn't. But let me just say, what they do say is that the press doesn't cover them.
We saw...
Well said, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
You know what? It's funny. We have been saying, Terry and me have been saying this, and anybody with common sense, any person of goodwill that has a faith life, we've seen this for years. The way the media, the mainstream media, eclipses these faith-filled events. But I'll tell you what warms my heart is that now, for the first time in my entire life, I have heard a sitting president say something that I've known for 25 and 30 years. But I'm a nobody. I'm a little sounding board here myself, me and Terry.
Absolutely.
But now we have the highest official in the country that's calling the media out for its media bias. That's a breath of fresh air. By the way, before we continue, I just want to mention Terry, where are you going to be at this weekend? Where I'm going to be at this weekend because... I just want to mention,
you go first.
We have an article for you that is going to be powerful.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk about the wall in the next couple of minutes, and I'm going to connect what Trump says, President Trump says, with what Pope Francis says, and then the police is going to come out in me. I'm going to give you a law enforcement perspective on why we need the wall from a policeman's point of view. I think it's going to blow you away. But Terry, where are you going to be at this weekend?
I'm going to be at the, let's see, where am I going to? I'm going to be at the Church of Good Shepherd on Sunday, giving a talk to some Hollywood people. And I'd love to have you come to the Church of Good Shepherd in Beverly Hills. And then on Saturday, I'm going to be at the Biblical Studies Conference with Dr. Hahn and all the rest of the guys we've been promoting, so I'd love to see you there. Also, if you want me to come to your parish to speak on evangelization, you can always call that toll-free number, 877-526-2151 number. Before Jesse says where he's going to be, I want to remind you of something, and that is the Anger and Forgiveness CDs that I've been promoting with Deacon Bob McDonald. I've never heard anybody listen to this and say, wow, I've been having difficulty forgiving. I mean, I've heard everybody say this CD was powerful in helping them forgive a brother or sister. It's by Deacon Bob McDonald. Anyone who has not had a problem with forgiveness, get that CD by calling 877-526-2151. Jesse, where are you going to be this weekend, brother?
This weekend, I'm going to be at the Spokane Band of Brothers Men's Conference. That's in Washington.
With Doug
St. Thomas,
right?
with Doug Barry.
All right.
St. Thomas More Catholic Church, Spokane, Washington,
Awesome.
all day Saturday, January 28th. Also, I got a text here from a good friend of our show, a guy by the name of Patrick Madrid. I don't know if you've heard of him. And he asked me to put this out. No problem, Pat. Pat's going to be this Saturday. He's going to be here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'll be gone. Pat will be here in Phoenix, Arizona. He's going to be at St. Clair of Assisi Catholic Church in Surprise, Arizona.
Great.
He's going to be here from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., an all-day conference with Patrick Madrid, St. Clair of Assisi Catholic Church this Saturday, Surprise, Arizona. Be there or be nowhere. All right. Hey, I want to talk about, we got a couple, I just want to introduce the articles and then we'll really get into it on the next segment. But this one article, it says, Trump tweets, "We will build the wall." Now, here's what it says. Just a couple of little bullet points. Then we're going to use Pope Francis's comments. Then I'm going to get into the law enforcement. President Trump announced yesterday about the Mexican border wall and he said he tweeted out, "Big day planned on national security." He says, among other things, we will build a wall. Now, here's what he said, and this is something that's common sense. I don't know where people disagree with this. He said this: I want legal immigrants to come through the front door. We don't want illegal immigrants. This is common sense legislation. Now, here's what I'm saying. This is what every country in the world does. Every country in the world agrees with what President Trump says. Every country in the world wants legal immigrants to come through the front door.
Of course.
They don't, no country. I mean, when people say stuff about, oh, Trump hates illegal, are you kidding me?
Show me a country.
Trump is doing something that every country supports. Nobody allows illegal immigrants in their country. Nobody. Everybody wants legal immigrants to come to the front door. And guess what else he said yesterday? I heard on the news. He said this. He says, we're not going to make new laws to enforce immigration. All we're going to do is enforce the laws that we have. Did he hear that? Did he hear what he just said? We're not making new laws. We're just going to enforce the laws that we have. Guess what? That haven't been enforced.
Exactly.
You know, Sean Spicer, who's the press secretary, he's made it clear that there's been no change in Trump's position on the border wall, and he's getting right to work on it. And unlike some of the other first week actions, like, you know, pushing pipeline projects and reinstating the Mexico City policy on global funding of abortion groups, Trump is going to need congressional support to authorize a border wall. And Sean Spicer, the White House press secretary, said on Monday, he's already started to work with Congress on the appropriations avenue of that. And so he's going to do everything he can to direct agencies and Congress to commence with that work as soon as possible. He's also going to beef up Border Patrol, I think by 5,000 more agents.
Right, 5,000. Mm-hmm.
They've been screaming for help. They're being overrun. He's going to give them the help they need. And by the way, the wall is just one component of the Trump administration policy that also includes, again, you know, beefing up the Border Patrol by 5,000 additional men, and also executive orders and what he calls extreme vetting of immigrants from Muslim countries. On the next segment, we're going to share with you what Pope Francis says about immigration, and you're going to be very surprised. Well, he just quotes from the Catechism and from Vatican II, and you're going to see, wow, well, this is basically what the Trump administration is trying to promote. And then also in the next segment, I'm going to be talking to you about how dangerous the Mexican cartels are here in the United States of America.
Well said. Before we go to a break, I want to let Elias know he's been on hold. He's going to give us his take on the administration and give us whether he likes it or dislikes it. And don't forget, Elias, we'll get you on after the break. Folks, you're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. What we've just presented to you, if you want to hear it again, you can go to our website, catholicrc.org. You can also get the articles that we're talking about. Also, just to let you know, on our website, we just lowered all of our download CDs. A lot of times I don't have to ship them to you. If you just go online to catholicrc.org, you can download a lot of this material, and it's cheaper. It's cheaper for us to have to not spend the money to mail it to you. Call 877-526-2151 if you want to get that Anger and Forgiveness CD set, or go online to catholicrc.org and download it. And that number, you can also go to the Spiritual Warfare Conference on February 25th with Jesse Romero, David Arias, a former Satanist. Call 877-526-2151. When we come back, we'll take your call. We'll be right back.
This is Bishop David O'Connell, and you're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio.
Back to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. Want to join the conversation? Call 888-526-2151. Now here's Terry and Jesse.
This is Full Contact Catholicism. And again, we're not right versus left, we're right versus wrong. Hey, let's go to the phone lines. We got Elias calling from Monrovia, California. Elias, did you like the way I pronounced your name correctly?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you very much.
I was going to say it different. Go ahead, brother. We're all ears.
I just wanted to say that if that's the case, that that clip that you played of Trump. I don't know how he's going to do next week or the rest of his presidency, but so far I'm pushing 50 years old. If that clip is true, and that's really him saying that,
it is
so far the best president in my lifetime.
Wow.
That's all I want to say. He had the guts to say the truth about the pro-life.
Yeah, that's what it takes.
That's amazing.
Yep. I agree with you, brother. Thank you. That's it. God love you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your call. Jess, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it on the topics regarding. Okay, you just read what Donald Trump said about the wall. President, I got to quit forgetting he's no longer just a businessman and an actor or a part of this series of television. He's a president. We got to call him President Trump. Okay, I'm going to keep retraining myself. All right, here's what the Holy Father said, Pope Francis. The article's called Pope Francis says, every country has the right to control its borders. Okay?
Yep.
Now, the article basically says, despite his dislike of walls, Pope Francis declared Friday that, quote, every country has the right to control its borders, especially where the risk of terrorism exists. Now, this interview was done on a Spanish newspaper, and Pope Francis reaffirmed two basic things that come from Vatican II and come from the Catechism.
Yep.
The Pope reaffirmed basic Catholic doctrine regarding immigration, namely, number one, sovereign nations have the fundamental right to maintain secure borders. Number two, the Pope said, nations have the right to receive immigrants, here it is, in an orderly and controlled fashion. Is this microphone on? A nation has the right to receive immigrants, here it is, drum roll, in an orderly and controlled fashion. Okay? The Pope said, yes, every country has the right to control its borders, who comes and who goes. And those countries at risk from terrorism or such things have even more of a right to control them more. And the article basically says the Pope once more underscored. This is very good. This is very humble of the Pope, okay? At the end of the article, here's what the Pope said, okay? The Pope once more underscored the right of Catholics and others to contradict him. The Pope said they have the right to disagree. They have the right to think that the path is dangerous, that the outcome may be bad. They have that right. Stop right there. So what's the Pope saying that we can disagree with him? Here's what he's saying. He's saying when it comes to issues that are prudential judgments, like the wars, like the death penalty, like immigration, the Pope said, he said the same thing that Pope Benedict XVI said. You can disagree with the Pope on prudential judgment issues. On global warming, we could disagree with him. But when it comes to issues that are non-negotiable, that are intrinsically evil, we must toe the line with the Holy Father and with the Magisterium. That's what he said.
Absolutely. And, you know, I love consistency as a Catholic, that this has been taught from day one. Benedict XVI, I remember in April of 2008 when he was here, he said the same thing in Washington, D.C. So it's just, it's refreshing to have that. And I just want to remind you, if you agree or disagree, I got to get somebody to disagree with us. I'm tired of having someone call and say, Terry, Jesse, you guys are the greatest. No, if you disagree, especially, I love it when people write me an email and say, hey, Terry, I disagree, you're crazy. I even offer to go meet with them. But you know what? Most of the time, those people never let me go over to meet them. They don't and want a dialogue. But I would love the dialogue. So my heart is out to all the people who disagree in any of this. Call us at 888-526-2151. I want to mention something that in the book of Hebrew, today's reading said, we must consider how, listen to this, this is Hebrews 10, so you know verse 19. We must consider how to rouse one another to love and good works. That just jumped out at me today. Love and good works. That's what we're here in the Lord's gym. And some people might think that, hey, Terry, Jesse, what are you saying, man? You know what is so beautiful about everything we've said? It lines up exactly with Holy Mother of the Church, because I'm not interested in Jesse's personal opinion. Means nothing to me. Terry Barber's opinion means nothing. I want to know what God teaches on a topic so that I can embrace it. Like what we just did on the abortion issue, I know it was hard to listen to, but you know how many people heard that for the first time and said, I got to jump into this battle. I got to defend life. I hope more and more people are going to do that with all the good things that are going on. And that's why if you've got issues on anger and forgiveness, everybody does, I have to say. I've got a CD I'm going to give away by Deacon Bob McDonald called Anger and Forgiveness. It's from a set called 877-526-2151. I think I've got my friend in San Francisco. Daniel, you've got an opinion, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Daniel, welcome to the show, brother.
Hi, Terry. You were looking for someone who wanted to say, Terry, you're crazy.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yes, please.
There
That's
we
why I
go.
say you're my brother. I saw that. What's going on? What don't you agree? And I'm all ears. I've got 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Sure. Okay, we'll get to it. So most things, but what's interesting to me about the immigration is this.
Yes.
It's so easy to say that absolutely we have a right to sovereign borders.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. We have a custom, but we also have so much self-interest there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious of this.
Yes.
Imagine if there was a bigger world where the Earth was one of many planets that were occupied. No longer would we consider ourselves Americans, Guatemalans, etc. We'd say to ourselves, we're Earthlings. This concept of borders would be silly to us. We'd have a bringing together of the people. Now, I know that world doesn't exist, but I say that just to remind us that we do have so much more in common than we are different. And I think that if Jesus were here now, Jesus would remind us of our commonalities, our desire to make a better life for our children,
Sure.
our need for, our need for shelter, our need for warmth, our need for love, and all of those override this man-made concept of borders, which are ever changing. And you had talked about how the last 2 popes have been consistent, and
Yes.
you said from day one.
Yes.
Well, day one for the church is more than 2,000 years ago, and in those 2,000 years, those borders have come and gone hundreds and hundreds of times. So I'm more interested in man looking out for man
I got you,
than
Daniel.
I am in man saying you need a passport.
Hey, Daniel, can I just ask you a quick question? When you made an imaginary scenario that's not in reality, but let's say, I'm going to give you a grounds for it. Let's say that we had this big universe and all the land. Would you have a backyard with a fence, or do you think everybody's yards would just connect and nobody would have privacy? I'm just asking. I just want to know.
It's a wonderful question, but I think that question brings me to this.
Yes,
When I was a child,
Yeah.
When I was a child, we had no fences. I lived in an area
Mm-hmm.
and at a time when we had no fences. I moved to the big city where we were told to be scared of our neighbors and put up a fence.
Okay.
I have a feeling that if we were told that our neighbors worked for us, not against us, that we are part of something, not antithesis to one another, that we would knock down those fences, literally and metaphorically.
Great answer. I just wish original sin wasn't alive and well, because with original sin, it sure seems that that would be a utopia. But I want to let Jesse answer. Daniel,
Well,
I'm glad you... I'm jumping in because my brother Jesse's staying quiet, and this is a 3-way. Jess, jump in, brother.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say is, again, here goes Jess again, always appealing to the Bible. Guilty. I don't appeal to secular humanist thought. I appeal to the Bible. Guilty. Okay? According to the Bible, when the Jews were captive in Babylon, and they were basically rescued by a Persian king, Cyrus of Persia, and the Jews were allowed to go back to their homeland, we see in Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 15, that God actually told the Jews to build a wall around Jerusalem. Okay, so God has no problem with walls, because God told the Jews, when you go back to Jerusalem, your homeland, after years and decades of captivity under the Babylonians, build a wall. Not only that, somebody may say, "Oh, Jess, you're quoting the Old Testament. That doesn't apply to us." Well, what about the New Testament? Because I assume that all of us are New Testament Christians.
Of course.
I know I am. I know Terry is. In the book of Revelation, chapter 22, it talks about heaven, and in verses 14 and 15. And it actually says in that passage that there's a wall in heaven. God has a wall around heaven. Now, we can argue it's just a metaphor. It's just a figure of speech. Well, I don't know that. I haven't been there yet. I'm just reading it at face value. In Revelation 22, verses 14 and 15, it says that the New Jerusalem has a wall around the city, and it says,
Jesse,
for what? Yeah.
Go ahead,
I'm
Daniel.
Here's last thing.
I am so convinced by what you have said, Jesse. You have absolutely convinced me. If God wants to come and show us where the borders are and where the walls are, I absolutely trust him or her to do that.
I hear
but
you.
in the meantime, I do not trust any fallible man born of original sin to tell me where the wall should be and where it shouldn't be, especially when he probably has an economic interest. Thank you very much.
Daniel, you're a good man, and thank you for sharing. I'm sorry you hung up on us. I was so glad to chat with you, and you took me up on it, and we had a nice chat. I hope you continue to call in and chat with us in the future. Before we go to Claire, we've got to take a break. Boy, that was fun. I enjoyed that, Daniel. Yes?
Let me just mention something.
Sure.
God doesn't get in all the details of life. In other words, I think that was kind of an unfair statement
Of course.
at the end. Well, God doesn't tell us where the borders are at. Of course,
you got
God allows man to govern their own affairs. You have to use common sense.
Absolutely.
And as Romans 13 says, God allows governments to make these legislative decisions for themselves. God doesn't get into the details of human minutia. We'll be right back.
This is Dr. Scott Hahn, and you are listening to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio.
You know, when you think about it, pain is temporary and victory's forever.
Amen.
You know what? No pain, no gain. That's what the Christian life's all about. We got somebody who wants to make a call or ask a question. Go ahead.
Claire in
Go ahead,
San
Claire.
Jose. Welcome to the show, my friend. Go ahead. Claire?
Yes, thank you. I have a question about sanctuary cities. I really have to admit I didn't know anything about them until this week. And I've been reading about them, and it's really disturbing, like the beautiful young lady who was killed in San Francisco by someone that the federal government wanted to deport, but San Francisco refused to hand him over. So can you please explain, what are they? Where are they? Are they all over the country? And how have cities gotten away with basically rebelling against the federal government and deporting these
Good
felons
question.
sometimes?
All right. Great question. Go ahead.
A sanctuary city, basically, it's a political term that's used to apply to cities in the United States that have policies that are designed to not prosecute undocumented persons. Okay, that's basically what a sanctuary city is. I mean, if you could look on the internet and see how many sanctuary cities are in the U.S., there's a bunch. I know
LA,
Los
San
Angeles,
Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yep.
I know Chicago.
Yep.
I'll be honest with you. I don't want to be partisan. I just want to give the facts, like Sergeant Joe Friday. You'll find the cities, the big cities that are run by Democrats. They're the ones that are basically calling their cities sanctuary cities. Well, they will not cooperate with the federal government. So that's basically what a sanctuary city is. A city that's basically saying we're not prosecuting anybody
That's
here
it.
who's undocumented. We're not going to listen to federal law. So that's the short and the long of it.
That's it. Let's Claire, thank you very much for your call. I know that we've got only a few minutes left, but I want to go to Texas. I was out in Texas not too long ago, last weekend. Oswaldo, did I pronounce your name right? In Laredo, Texas. God love you. Welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show. What's on your mind?
Yes, the brothers, Terry and Jesse. I was listening to the gentleman a few minutes ago, but I was just having a thought here that when Jesus says in Matthew chapter 28, verse 20, to go and make disciples of all nations, doesn't there, is the Lord recognizing that there's a lot of nations and that every nation has its
sovereignty? Yeah, I got it.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good question, Jess.
Yeah, I think
That makes sense.
your interpretation of the
Fair.
Bible is right.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus, in that statement, you're right. He's recognizing that there are nations, and obviously all those nations have been carved out either by war or through legislation. And Jesus Christ, obviously, in making that statement, recognizes that nations have the ability to carve themselves out and carve out their borders. Good point, Osvaldo. Common sense Catholicism once again.
Yep. Thanks for your call, friend. Jesse, before we go back to what you're going to say, I just want to remind everybody, we try to educate you on these topics with Catholic mindsets. And today I'm giving away anger and forgiveness. It's a CD set, but I'm going to give 2 copies of this talk that's helped so many people learn how to forgive, because that's a critical thing as Christians. You're welcome to get 2 copies. You just pay the shipping by calling 877-526-2151. Jesse, let's continue with the police back. Go ahead.
Here's another thing that most people don't think about in terms of the whole illegal immigration, border control issue.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with Mexican cartels right now that are much more dangerous to America than ISIS. Why? Because they're here. Most of ISIS is still over in the Middle East.
Yep.
The Mexican cartels are here. And guess what? According to a lot of people that have studied this in law enforcement, we know that both of them are brutal. Terrorists and the cartels are brutal. They're bloodthirsty. But many people would argue that the cartels are a greater security risk because they're already embedded inside the United States. And guess what? They're here illegally. Now, some people are saying, well, do you think the cartels and the terrorists are going to get together? That's highly unlikely. I'll tell you why. Okay, I'll tell you why. Because the terrorists, they quote the Quran and they worship Allah. And this is not going to sit very well with the cartels. The cartels, I mean, this is a foreign book and a foreign deity to them. The cartels worship Satan. And so it's highly unlikely that both of them are ever going to, become allies. Now, but both of them use identical tactics, okay? They do public beheadings. They practice slavery. They practice prostitution and kidnapping. They deploy child soldiers. And so both of them also come from very downtrodden countries, which makes it very easy for them to recruit people. And now, here's where the cartels and ISIS are basically different. The cartels are more secular, okay? ISIS appeals to the Quran. The cartels are more secular. They're even more capitalistic in nature.
Yep.
So
true.
Yeah. I
Businesses,
mean, it's about a lot of money for them.
Yep.
And we know that at least 2 of the major cartels, Los Caballeros and La Familia Michoacana, these 2 cartels, they openly practice Satanism, and they also, guess what? They also practice cannibalism.
Oh, sick.
Is this microphone on?
That's sick.
Okay. So these 2 Mexican cartels they're openly religious cults that worship the devil, practice cannibalism. They also have shrines and idols to the devil, and they also pass out pamphlets preaching about their death-obsessed ideology to the masses. Who do they worship? They worship a skeleton figure called La Santa Muerte, or the death of or the death saint. And they also have, the Mexican cartels, they also have assassins, okay? All the major cartels, they also have assassins, or we used to call them hitmen. And what do they do before they go commit an assassin? They get blessed by La Santa Muerte, by the skeleton figure that's the devil. Before they do their abductions, their raids, before they do their assassinations, before they do their kidnappings, they go and worship this death saint, which is Satan himself. And I'll tell you, people that have studied the cartels and ISIS, they actually say that the cartels are more violent, and there's more violence in Mexico proper as a result of the cartels than there is in Iraq and Syria. And here's the last thing that I'll mention, is that these organizations, the cartels, they're ruthless, cold-blooded murderers. And guess what? They're all over the Southwest, and they're here illegally. President Trump has said, he's modified his position. He said, the people that have absolutely must go forthwith now are people that are illegal immigrants that have a criminal record. Guess what? Last study that I read, there's about 3 million of them. Many of them are part of the cartel or are sympathetic to the cartel or are gang members that look up to the cartel and want to be part of the cartel one day. 3 million of them are all over the Southwest. And guess what? I think it's common sense legislation. They're worse than terrorists, that we get rid of them immediately, and then we look at a pathway to citizenship for the people that have no record, have been here illegally, have never committed a crime, no parking ticket, no nothing, and they want to become American citizens. There should be a pathway to citizenship obviously, as Archbishop Gomez says, they should be punished. Archbishop Gomez said October 4th, 2008. He said, quote, "The fact is that millions of immigrants are here in blatant violation of U.S. law." He says, we have to make sure that our laws are fair and understandable. At the same time, Archbishop Gomez says, we have to insist that our laws be respected and enforced. Those who violate our laws have to be punished.
Wow. Before we go to I want to give you some good news. This is from California for Life News. The Sacramento abortion business, many of these abortion clinics are losing money right now. And with the U.S. House of Representatives passing a bill permanently banning federal tax funding, more abortion clinics are going to close. There's 110 Planned Parenthood locations just in California. So that's good news. Once the money dries up, they're not going to be able to, do that. So that's good news. We only have a couple minutes. Alma in Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show. God love you.
Hi, Terry. Hi, Jesse.
Alma.
I love you guys.
We love you too. God bless you.
I've been listening to you guys forever.
God love you.
I don't know if you guys could put, well, I think you guys did.
Sure.
I think you guys just did, but I kind of missed it. What about the illegal immigrants that are here,
Sure.
that are working, that are actually providing for the country,
Right.
and are doing everything right, and all we want is just to be here.
Right.
And,
Right. A path to citizenship.
Another. Jesse. He was quoting. He was talking about the Bible. I just kind of remembering when Joseph and Mary, when Mary was going to give birth, they also immigrated for security, and that's the reason why. I'm a daughter of immigrants.
Good.
That's the reason why we immigrated over here too, and
Good for you.
we just
So is
have
Jesse.
nothing but good things to give to this country.
Yeah.
And we're just praying for a good outcome.
Amen.
Elma, there's going to be a good outcome. We want good people like you
Exactly.
here and your parents. And though, maybe your parents or other people that came here breaking the law, the fact is, this is what's called vetting. And that's what President Trump wants to do. He wants to make sure that your parents are not connected with the cartels,
Makes
that they're not
sense.
smuggling drugs,
For the safety
that they're
of
not
all
here
of us.
breaking the law.
Yeah.
Because we want good people here like your parents.
Amen.
And trust me, with Paul Ryan and the Republican majority in Congress, there will be a pathway to citizenship for good people like your parents. Trust me. And trust in the Lord most of all.
Yeah, Elma, thank you. We got the music. We got to run.
Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, you bet. Call anytime, Elma. This is the Terry and Jesse Show. We always say we're too blessed to be stressed, too anointed to be disappointed, and if hope was money, we'd be billionaires. Thank you for joining us in this hour. Tell your friends about the Terry and Jesse Show. If you'd like to get our app, where you can listen to our show anywhere in the world, just go to your app store and type in the Terry Jesse Show. Also, just to remind you, I am giving away that Anger and Forgiveness CD. I'm going to be here answering the phones. I'd love to chat with you. Call me at 877-526-2151. Also, don't forget, Jess Romero is going to be at the men's conference up in Spokane, Washington, and I'll be at the Biblical Studies Conference in San Diego and Good Shepherd Parish this Sunday in Beverly Hills. May God richly bless you and your family.